Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkie and Drury. I'm Drury. That's Clarkie. We're brought to you as always by our friends at Coolbet Canada, the Listowel Squash Courts, and of course, Listowel Vision Care and See the Game. We are very pleased to be joined by friend of the show and one of the hosts of the best morning sports talk show on planet Earth. That's my opinion, and it should be yours too. Aaron Korolnek joins us. AK, how are you, brother?
Fellas, I'm doing fantastic, and my tires were already inflated, but if they get pumped anymore, Ryan, they might burst. I love it, though. I appreciate it, and great to be back on with you guys, as always.
We appreciate it, my friend. Don't worry, your head will fit through the door later. You'll be fine. Let's talk a little bit. We'll jump right into it. The number one story in the Toronto sports scene right now, playoffs, first round, Leafs Lightning. Let's start with game one. Probably the best playoff game I've ever seen this group of Maple Leafs play so far. They were dominant, and Tampa, give the Leafs all the credit in the world. They completely blew them off the ice. Tampa looked completely uninvolved, even starting with that 5-minute major. What did you make of night one of the playoffs for this Maple Leafs group with all the weight of the world on their shoulders?
Well, it actually reminded me of the early 2000s Leafs who were up against the Ottawa Senators, all those seasons, all those playoff runs where they're the underdog based on, regular seasons of yesteryear, and Toronto getting dominated by the Senators, Ottawa having more points, not necessarily applicable to this instance with the Leafs, but I think a lot of people viewed Toronto as the dog to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and rightfully so, considering what Tampa's done in the past. But man, just a top-to-bottom exceptional performance from Toronto in game one. It started out with Jack Campbell, I thought was great. The Leafs' best players were the best players in the game, and Matthews and Marner. And it was a really tremendous performance by Toronto, and one that set the stage for game two, where there's a lot of optimism heading into it, and rightfully so. And, of course, we know things didn't necessarily go according to plan.
You mentioned the best players were the best players, and one in particular, I'm sporting the jersey today, and as Ryan knows, I had this guy traded about 10 times during the year. Mitch Marner showed up. Mitch Marner scored a goal. What kind of weight lifted off his shoulder in that game was tremendous, but he's got to keep it going, because if this team is going to win, he's got to be their second best player.
Clarkie, I can't even fathom the pressure, both internal and external, that Mitch Marner deals with. The guy makes $10.9 million. He's a Toronto kid. He understands how important the Leafs are to this city, to the fan base, to the media. And, the way he has played in these playoffs to this point, he is earning every single penny, and he's also earning the removal of the reputation as a guy who struggles in the playoffs. 18 games prior to game one, where he went without a goal in the Stanley Cup postseason. And he's been great. He's been as good as you could possibly hope for. And if that continues, and I see no reason why it won't, because in my view, Mitch Marner is a very different player today than he was last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He has a goal scorer's mentality. And that completely, fundamentally changes the way opposing defenses need to adjust for him, and the way he handles himself, and the way he has confidence in himself. If you're Mitch Marner right now, you need to be feeling on top of the world.
He certainly. Oh, very good. And his grandma was there last night to watch.
And his grandma was there. Does it get any better than that?
One guy who the fans are sort of on now after game two, I think can take the heat a little bit more than Mitch could, and hopefully will break out of it. But John Tavares, the captain, Ryan and I have talked about John and is he worth the money they're paying him? But what do you think is a suitable expectation for John Tavares in this series and in the playoffs?
Okay, so John Tavares is not worth $11 million a year. He would tell you that. In a moment of honesty, Sheldon Keefe would tell you that. Kyle Dubas would tell you that. But that doesn't really change anything, because he signed that contract in a position of strength, a position of leverage, where there are other teams offering him $13 million a year, $13.5 million a year. He chose to come to the Toronto Maple Leafs for $11 million a year. So I don't think there's really any point in relitigating or trying to analyze whether or not he makes whether his salary is commensurate with his production, because it's not. He's not a number one centerman in the National Hockey League right now, but he is a really quality number two. He's about a point-a-game player in the regular season. That being said, to this point, through 2 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs, he has not been very good. He picked up an assist on that power play goal that Austin Matthews scored to make it 3-1 in Game 1. But I would argue he's been pretty average 5-on-5, and I think he needs to be better. I think he can be better.
Yep.
And I think it's very likely heading in to the later games in this postseason run that you'll see Tavares and Nylander reunited. And I think that could really provide positive dividends for both of those guys, because I think they have worked well together, and I think they will again.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys where, you know, the criticism of him and the holes, if you will, that are in his game are not new. And, you know, your compatriots over at TSN 1050 on Overdrive were talking a bit about it today as we record this on Thursday. And, you know, O-Dog, who scored quite a few goals in the NHL, was basically saying, look, like the blueprint for this guy hasn't changed. He's made a lot of hay in and around the net. And that's where he made hay in junior and in minor midget before that, when he was a highly touted scorer. He scores a lot of goals from within 15 feet. He's not a good skater. He never has been. He's improved his skating a lot with the likes of Barb Underhill helping him out stay competitive in the NHL. But like, guess what, everybody? It's not getting better. Like, this guy's not getting faster. It's only going to deteriorate more and more. And one thing that I noticed that he has not done yet is really get into that interior area. And it's something really all the Leafs, other than Michael Bunting at times, didn't do at all in Game 2. And beyond that, and talking about Tavares and everybody who's a star there that's not contributing, Nylander's had a tough start too, some sushi issues. I want to get your opinion just on the discipline issues. And Wayne Simmons took a lot on his shoulders in the post-game interviews. Sheldon Keefe addressed it as well. There were just a lot of penalties in that game that the Leafs didn't take in Game 1 that they did in Game 2 that just simply can't happen. They got themselves in a lot of trouble, and they brought that Tampa power play to life, and that was a problem, eh?
Well, that is the biggest problem that Toronto can face in this series. But I think at 5-on-5 play, the Leafs are just as good, if not better, than Tampa Bay. I think you could probably make the argument that the power play is a similar idea. But, I mean, Tampa's power play, if you look at it in the month of April, was operating at over 40%. It was piping hot down the stretch. And if you give Kucherov and Hedman and Point and Stamkos 7 opportunities, you aren't winning any hockey games. That is a straight up fact. Maybe 1 in a million, but it's going to be very, very rare. So I'm certain the Leafs have learned from this Game 2 mistake, the lack of discipline, Wayne Simmons addressing it, and rightfully so. I thought Wayne Simmons took 2 really stupid penalties. And they also coincide with the Kyle Clifford 5-minute major in Game 1 that could have very well been a huge turning point in the series if, I don't know what the hell was going on with Tampa in Game 1 and their power play and basically the entire team and the way the Leafs were able to manhandle their power play with their penalty kill. But discipline has been a big story. It didn't burn them in Game 1 like it could have. It did burn them in Game 2. So we'll see what type of adjustments they make for Game 3. But I also want to say there's a reason that the Leafs are causing all these penalties for themselves, and it's because they're trying to be aggressive. I think the home crowd has a lot to do with it. It's been an amazing crowd so far. There's a lot of passion in the building, a lot of energy, and sometimes when you have that unbridled energy, it can lead to unintended consequences. And I think in Game 2, unintended or not, you need to be more disciplined than the Leafs were.
So you mentioned Seif will have changes next game. So Clifford is eligible to come back into it. Spezza is sitting on the sidelines. I'd like to see Spezza and Clifford in, and maybe Blackwell and Simmons out. What do you think will happen next game?
It's a real fascinating situation for Sheldon Keefe, because he talked after Game 1 the importance of Clifford and the physicality that he provides the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the same goes for Wayne Simmons. I do kind of have this inkling that we could see Jason Spezza. And I mean, just think back to last year in the postseason for the Maple Leafs. I would argue that William Nylander was probably their best forward. Maybe Alex Kerfoot was second, and Jason Spezza might have been their third best forward, which is crazy to think. I wonder how they lost to Montreal. You know, like, ooh, that's probably a pretty good way to look back on that.
No, they cross-checked their way to the win.
Here we go.
They got goalied. Like, whatever it was. But, I mean, the top guys didn't perform for the Leafs last year. That's pretty obvious. But Jason Spezza was one of their top guys. That being said, it's an interesting scenario for Keefe because Tampa's fourth line provides so much grit and tenacity, experience. Pat Maroon, Corey Perry, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. I mean, these are guys that can really stir it up and mix it up. So if you want to take out Simmons or you want to take out a Clifford, keep Kasha on the fourth line, and you add Spezza in there, all of a sudden you have more of a skill-oriented fourth line as opposed to maybe the physicality that Sheldon Keefe is looking from that position. My guess would be you bring Clifford back, and maybe Andre Kasha takes a seat. That's something that Carlo mentioned this morning. And that Kasha, great player, no doubt, not a fourth-line player. He's a guy who needs to play up in your lineup in more offensive roles. And to have him on the fourth line, it's just not an effective use of his assets and abilities. I'm not sure it makes sense.
You know, it's funny. We're sitting here probably, 12 minutes into this, and we're talking about the deficiencies in the game and Tavares and the penalties. This defense, I think, is the best defense the Leafs have had in a long time, rate 1 through 6 with some depth guys as well, with Holland and Sandin not playing. I think they played terrific. Sure, every defenseman is going to have some mistakes here and there. It happens all the time in every hockey game. But this group is deep.
I couldn't agree more. And you mentioned the depth. I mean, they're 7 and 8 are Rasmus Sandin, who's had a great year when he's been healthy, and Justin Hall is a guy who, I mean, has a lot of experience, and he's an older guy, a more physical guy. So, I mean, I wouldn't expect any changes as far as the Leafs defense core goes in Game 3. I think they've been more than adequate. It's just one of those things where they just took too many penalties in Game 2, and that was the death knell there. But I have been so impressed with the way they built this D. And I mean, Mark Giordano has been a gift from God for the Toronto Maple Leafs so far since being acquired before the trade deadline. And he's a guy, I mean, this year for sure. I mean, a huge part of this team. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he's a big part of this team next year as well.
And Campbell's been good too. I mean, because outside of the first goal that Hedman scored, which he addressed, basically said he'd want that back. I didn't think any of the other 4 were horrific goals or his fault at all. I thought he was good. Speaking of good goaltending, let's touch on a couple of the other series real quick. Louis Domingue, who is in net tonight, Mr. Spicy Pork and Broccoli himself. I love a spicy pork and broccoli.
Can't beat it.
But my goodness, to eat that and then have the trainer come in and tell you got to go in triple overtime and you stop every shot you see and Pittsburgh gets the win. I mean, my God, what an unbelievable series of events in that game.
Oh, man, it's amazing. I played some golf today and I had a couple of hot dogs at the turn. 39 back. So in many respects, I'm like Louis Domingue out there at Country Club East. But yeah, the Louis Domingue story is truly remarkable, and the way he was able to persevere in spite of, I guess, suboptimal circumstances. Let's call them that. Coming in overtime, an injury to Casey DeSmith, and Louis Domingue comes in, and the spicy pork rumbling in his belly. That broccoli. I mean, he needed that to balance it out. But it's amazing to think that this guy is a free agent at, I guess, the end of the season. And perhaps, and we'll see how the rest of this run goes for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but maybe he's earned a contract for himself for next year. And it just goes to show, the crazy stuff happens in the Stanley Cup playoffs every single year. Stars are born and great stories are unearthed when you never imagined they possibly would be there. And I think Louis Domingue is Exhibit A of just that.
Aaron, has anything in the first round surprised you so far? Has a team maybe not looked as good as you thought or looked better than you thought maybe?
Well, I mean, the Florida Panthers in Game 1 losing 4-2 to Washington. We'll see how it plays out in Game 2. I mean, that was a major surprise for me considering the way that Florida played so well all regular season long, just cruising to a President's Trophy, scoring 4 goals a game basically the entire season. I would expect a major bounce back there. But you know what I would say was the biggest takeaway from the first couple of nights, where it seemed that everything went one way on night 1 and the exact opposite way in night 2. Look at Minnesota and St. Louis and Edmonton and LA, Toronto and Tampa. Things happening one way and then you could bet on the regression to the mean or the exact opposite happening just a couple of nights later. I think that's been very fascinating. And I think what that goes to show is, and I don't know if this is a popular or unpopular opinion, momentum, that whole concept does not exist. It's a completely separate entity. Each game lives in its own bubble, and I don't think things carry over from one game to another. And I know Bob McKenzie, or was it Bob McKenzie who said that?
Yep.
Or if Bob McKenzie always said that. And what's the line in baseball where you're only as good as the next day's starting pitcher? Because, if you might have momentum from one day to the next, but if your starting pitcher pulls a Jose Barrios and gets blown out by the Cleveland Guardians, I should say, then you have major issues. So that's what I think has been the most fascinating thing for me to watch so far.
Well, that's a great transition. Let's touch on those Blue Jays that got off to a really great start. Now they're tied with the Rays as we record this for second in the AL East, and they've hit a little bit of a skid here, if you want to call it that, as we record this. They're not having a good night in Cleveland against those Guardians. Barrios not lasting very long. Overall, what's been your impression of the Jays so far this year? They've got the most wins by one run in the entire majors. It's 9 now. Jordan Romano is more than doing his job, league leading 12 saves. I mean, he has been lights out. For the most part, their pitching's been pretty good. Kevin Gausman is on track to walk away with the Cy Young. It's early, but if he keeps pitching like this in Split City, I mean, it's unbelievable what he's doing. What's your impression of the Jays so far?
Well, if Kevin Gausman keeps pitching like this, he'll be better than Cy Young. Forget winning the award. I mean, this guy's been absolutely incredible so far. A stellar free agent acquisition from the Jays. And I mean, let's not forget about what Alek Manoah has done as well. He has been so good for the Toronto Blue Jays since coming up to the big club. But I mean, the thing about the Jays is we expect these gaudy offensive numbers from their big boys in the lineup, and Bo Bichette's kind of had his struggles. Vladdy has kind of been up and down at points, and George Springer's had a really solid year. Of course, the injuries to Teoscar Hernandez and Danny Jansen. But over the course of the entire sport, I mean, in Major League Baseball, the OPS, on base plus slugging percentage, is as low as it's been since 1968. And I don't know exactly why this is happening, if it's an aberration, a coincidence, or it's something that is going to become more of a trend in Major League Baseball. But clearly pitchers are having a lot more success against hitters, at least to this point in time. And I think that's also applicable to the Toronto Blue Jays. That being said, I mean, if you have that three-headed monster of Gausman, Barrios, who we know is a really quality arm, and Alek Manoah, and then you get perhaps Hyun-Jin Ryu operating at, I think you'd sign off on a 4 ERA and 15 to 20 starts from here on out for Hyun-Jin Ryu. And Yusei Kikuchi has kind of been, up and down as well as the fifth starter. I think there's so much reason to look at this team with the promise and everything that could potentially be for this club, because they're a stacked ball club. You mentioned Jordan Romano, my Markham, Ontario compatriot. So I've been a big fan of seeing what he's done so far, and it'll be great to see him at the All-Star game because he certainly deserves it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You look up and down the roster. I'm just looking at tonight. Tapia's batting first, batting 217. Now, Bo Bichette's 3 for 3 tonight. He's got his average up to 259. It's 6-4 now, by the way, Ryan. They're coming back.
Yes.
Gurriel at 290. At 265. Guerrero at 290. You're right. The hitting is not where we think as fans it should be, and the pitching is really holding them in. And Ryu, I just don't understand this guy. This guy, when he came, was supposed to be the guy. I haven't seen much at all with this guy ever. I don't know.
Well, I mean, when the Jays signed him, he was coming off being the second in the National League for the Cy Young Award. I mean, the guy had an incredible year with the LA Dodgers. And I mean, he's had some great starts for the Jays. He's had some decent performances, and he's also had some lackluster ones. I think back to that game in the playoffs and that 3-game truncated playoff run when they played the Tampa Bay Rays in that best 2 out of 3, and Ryu just got shelled. And he's a guy where he's at this point in his career. He's 35 years old. He's had so much wear and tear. He's not what he once was. But that being said, I mean, if Hyun-Jin Ryu is your 4th starter, He's got a lot of guile. He's got a lot of experience. Maybe the Jays can extract that final bit out of that left arm. And if they can, I think he could be a valuable piece for them. Would I want to see him in a postseason game? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him in a postseason game, but maybe very short 3 innings or something.
Yeah, sure. Give him maybe some mop-up duty.
Yeah.
And nothing win.
As your friend Jeff O'Neill would call him, Hyunjin Ryu arc.
That's exactly it.
To be fair, Clarky, his first year with the Jays, he did finish third in AL.
All I'm saying is when I watch him now, it's like this guy can't pitch anymore. Like he just
can't find
lobbing them in there, and it's like
he can't find the zone. His fastball's never. Yeah,
Robbie Ray's not
never
exactly off to a good start either.
He's not off to that great of a start, but it's
and
better
2,000 fans in Oakland the other night, Ryan. 2,000 fans. That's pretty good. That's like I don't want to Coyotes game.
I don't need to talk about the Oakland A's because I'm going to waste Aaron's time. I want to touch on what was a great moment the other night that we saw at Rogers Center. Everybody's seen it now with the Blue Jays fan and the young Yankees fan with the Judge shirt on. Producer Adam, I don't know if you've got the video there. It was so cool. I don't know how you missed this if you didn't see it. Judge just hit a moonshot, and a Blue Jays fan caught it. He gave it right to this little kid with the Judge shirt on. And then the next day, Judge brought them both down, got to meet them. The Jays gave him, some signed jerseys. The kid got to meet his favorite player. I mean, that's what sports is all about, eh?
It was such a class moment by the Toronto Blue Jays for orchestrating the whole thing. And you had the kid, you had the other guy who gave the ball to the kid, and you set it up with Aaron Judge. It really was such a heartwarming moment. And you're right. And that's, like, I even think back to being a kid myself. I was such a huge Leafs fan in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Matt Sundin and Darcy Tucker, Steve Thomas. And the idea of me meeting any of those guys when I was 9 years old, like that kid was, I mean, I'd probably be bawling my eyes out as well and grabbing onto Aaron Judge's massive 6'7" frame as close as I could. How about you guys? So going back to like your childhood, is there one athlete that you think back and like you would have been starstruck, you would have been crying if you had the opportunity to meet? Marky?
The first athlete I ever met, I played in a Northern Etobicoke church hockey league. I was like, I must have been about 8 or 9 years old. And Mike Pellick from the Toronto Maple Leafs came, and I'll never forget it. And I met Mike afterwards when I was working for the Leafs, but not that I was like wanting to meet Mike Pellick. He was just the guy who showed up, right? I don't know. Lanny McDonald was my guy. I carried around a Lanny McDonald shirt when I worked with the competition there for all those years, trying to see if I would meet up with him. Every school picture from about grade 6 to grade 10, I had my Lanny McDonald shirt on. Finally met him. He autographed my shirt. It's hanging in my basement now. So Lanny,
I'm sure the ladies at high school loved that, Clarky.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They were
impressed. Oh, Lanny McDonald again.
Jersey.
Wow.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. There's some good shots though, man. There's some real good shots.
How about you, Ryan? I guess I'm just hijacking. I guess I do.
Yeah, no, that's all good.
I'm just curious. I think it's an interesting conversation. I mean,
6'5", by the way, Kirk with the home run.
Yeah, Kirk just hit a moonshot. That was beautiful, 400 feet. I like the reverse interview here. I'm up at 4 a.m. tomorrow if you want me to jump on the show.
Yeah, that's it. We just flip roles.
I've been lucky enough. I've met my two favorite hockey players ever. I met Ovi and I met Nick Backstrom, and at a couple different events and games, I got pucks from both of them signed. And yeah, I'm not afraid to admit I got a little misty eyed. I mean, like I've told Clarky this many times. If it wasn't for Ovi and Nick, I probably still wouldn't be a hockey fan, to be honest. Like, those were dark days as a Capitals fan, and those guys probably saved my interest in the sport at a time when I was a little kid. You've got different interests. I was in a band at the time. Like, those guys kept me involved in the game, and that, that's special, and you remember that stuff forever.
Yeah, there's always so much you could think back to Dennis Maruk and Peter Bondra, right? I mean,
Steve Konowalchuk.
Yeah, exactly.
Olaf Kolzig. So. Yeah, that's right. Godzilla. Come on, man. We had a couple of gay players.
Yeah.
Secretary of Defense back in the day. Let's go. AK, we really appreciate your time. We know you got a jet. We really appreciate this. You can listen to First Up Monday through Friday on TSN 1050 in the morning from 6 to 10. I've been getting up early this week, working mornings. It's great to have you guys come
at a radio station, and he's listening to you guys. There you go.
That is true commitment and dedication. We appreciate it. Thank you.
It is commitment. You and Coco are the best. It's the best sports talk radio show to get you started at the start of the day. Follow Aaron on Twitter at Aaron_Korolnek, AK. We appreciate this as always, brother. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me, boys. Always great to be with you.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to chat with Mitchell Hawks GM and President Josh Kiel on a really successful season for the Hawks that unfortunately came to an end in the playoffs against the Stainer Siskins. We'll talk with Josh next here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkie and Drury, brought to you as always by Coolbet Canada, the Listowel Squash Courts, and of course our friends at Listowel Vision Care and See the Game. Clarkie, great chat with our friend Aaron Korolnek from TSN 1050's First Up. Listen every morning, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10, with him and Carlo Coco Koliakovo. I know they were addressing this, and a number of sports talk shows were, and for good reason. I mean, we should have had our buddy Jim Cressman on for this one. I mean, the umpire, this is the ultimate welcome to the umpire show of all time that I've maybe ever seen. Madison Bumgarner, producer Adam, you can roll the video now for our viewers that have not seen this. Madison Bumgarner, let me set the stage for you here. Madison Bumgarner is pitching in the first inning against the Miami Marlins. He gave up a home run. He was upset with some of the strikes and balls that were called and was complaining back and forth with the umpire like many pitchers do. Gets out of the inning down 1-0. Comes over and has to do the substance check. Everybody is they're checking the hands of the pitchers and everything. This is the first base umpire. I can't remember what his name is. I think it's Dan Bellino. It's Bellino. It doesn't matter. This guy's irrelevant, as all officials are in sports. And they should. And no one should ever know the names of officials. But this guy causes stuff like this. He's checking Bumgarner's fingers, and he's just staring into his soul the entire time. Just staring at him. He's not even looking at his hand.
And if I'm not mistaken, Bumgarner was a little upset at some of the calls in the first inning as well.
He was. Yeah. And this isn't the home plate umpire. This is the first. No. This is the umpire first. And he's checking, just looking at him, trying to goad him. The umpire knew what he was doing. He's trying to goad him into getting upset. And Madison Bumgarner, there's a great YouTube channel called Baseball Doesn't Exist. He does these little docu-series videos on ball players. He just did one, funnily enough, about Madison Bumgarner, who is notoriously a fiery guy. He's also one of the greatest, if not the greatest, postseason pitcher of all time. And he's just staring at him, holding his hand, not letting go. Yeah. And Bumgarner finally is like, he addressed it after the game. He said to him, "Why don't you take your effing time?" And he got thrown out of the game in the first inning for this.
It's just another egomaniac umpire wanting to make, just trying to goad him in, as you said. Now, the video, I have a little problem with showing how we showed it because it was in like super, super, super slow motion. It wasn't that long of an exchange. However, it was much longer than normal. No question about it.
It was like 12, 15 seconds.
That was slowed down. If you watch, they do have, if you Google it, there is another one. It's not that long. It's not 12 to 15 seconds.
It's not. It's like 7 or 8, though. And he's just holding and prodding.
Right. It was very creepy.
It
was very creepy.
This guy's just staring through the windows of his eyes. And then Bumgarner, who is like, no nonsense, is like,
and usually when you watch it happens all the time. Quick, okay, goodbye. It's 1 to 2 seconds tops.
It's hilarious you said that because pardon me. So this was the bottom of the first. So the Miami pitcher that night, I believe, was Eliezer Hernandez. When he left the mound, the umpire, just like the third base umpire at their dugout, like just wiped his hand and was like, "Yep, you're good."
Yeah, you're
this good. Guy, because he, and by the way, this guy's the crew chief here, Bellino.
Of course
He's sitting there and took offense to the fact that how dare the legend Madison Bumgarner, first ballot Hall of Famer, question ball and strike calls for our umpires who are legitimately awful this year on I don't care. I know Jeff Passan wrote this great article the other day on ESPN. You got to go check it out about how umpires are actually graded by MLB. They actually have a 2-inch on either side of the plate buffer zone, if you will, where the MLB deems strikes or balls called they're acceptable. But even by that metric, by any metric you want, the umpires are horrific this year. Not to mention the issues with these
They just have attitude like you wouldn't believe. It reminds me of the time I got kicked out of a game and the umpire didn't want to do anything except yell, boom. That's what he yelled when I got kicked out of the game. He goes, you're out of here. Boom.
Oh, that's so lame.
Are you kidding me?
So lame. These guys are such heroes. Like I said earlier, just to close this real quick before we get our friend Josh Kiel, the Mitchell Hawks, on. It's embarrassing. We shouldn't know the names of officials. They're the most irrelevant part of sports.
Best thing NHL did is take the names off the back.
They don't matter. They do not matter. I want to see Madison Bumgarner pitch, and I know that a lot of people aren't going to like this. We are sponsored by CoolBet, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, there's too much betting stuff going on in games now. That's fine if you don't like it. I do, though. And imagine I didn't that day. Otherwise, I would have been even more mad. Imagine laying a props bet on Madison Bumgarner for 7 or more strikeouts or something, and he gets tossed in the first. People bet money on this league, and you got this Bellino moron. He should be suspended for at least a few months. That's the most.
His name is Baloney.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's full of it anyway. Unbelievable. I want to see Madison Bumgarner pitch, and I want to see this moron touching guys' fingers, staring into their soul, trying to goad them into something stupid. It's lame. All right, we'll take another quick break. Josh Kiel, the Mitchell Hawks, coming up next. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkie and Drury, brought to you by CoolBet Canada, the Listowel Squash Courts, Listowel Vision Care, and See the Game. We
have a new one, right? We have a new sponsor, Ryan.
We do, as we're joined by our friend Josh Kiel, the general manager and president of the Mitchell Hawks. We do have a new sponsor, of course. Let's not forget Hanover Raceway. The season gets started the first weekend of June. Don't miss all the excitement of live harness racing every Saturday from June 4th to September 17th. Post time always at 1:30. Bring the family and come have a great time enjoying the sights and sounds. We bet you'll love it. Visit them at hanoverraceway.com for details on their upcoming events. So exciting times here at the show, and we're very excited to be joined by a guy who was at the helm of a team that had a very exciting season that unfortunately came to an end this past Tuesday. Mr. Josh Kiel of the Mitchell Hawks. Keeler, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. At the end of the day, it was a tough series loss in Stayner, but if you would have told me at the start of the year that we'd be playing hockey into May, then I'd probably call you a liar. So very fortunate to be where we are, and very proud of the group that I managed this year.
Well, you should be, because, the Mitchell Hawks, for the first time ever, became Pollock Division champs. A hard-fought series. Really, you could almost say like a season-long series, because you guys in the Hanover Barons went knuckle to knuckle from puck drop game one. It was an incredible race to first. They clinched it in the final game against you guys before a couple more games to end the regular season. They got the bye, but then you guys go to the final against them and had just an all-time war. It was unbelievable to watch, culminated by a Game 7 smackdown in Hanover to the behest of a lot of upset Barons fans that packed the barn that night. An 8-0 stomp down. It was something else. You guys took that title in emphatic fashion. Let's start there. Just your impressions of putting this team together after 2 really weird years for everybody, and then seeing them go out and do that. An incredible accomplishment for the Mitchell Hawks.
Oh, it's a phenomenal accomplishment, and that was our goal right from the get-go. I spent 2 years building this hockey team as a first-year GM, and I think having that COVID year was a blessing for myself to really learn the ins and outs of the league, how to recruit, how to manage a hockey program. It's not an easy task, and I was thrown into the Wolves, and we came out fighting and ended up getting to a Game 7 in the Pollock Division Championship, and these boys, they knew it was at stake, and the biggest thing about building this team was the fact that it was all local kids, and like 80% of our rosters from Stratford. They're buddies. They hang out together every single night. A bunch of them live together. The biggest thing is that they hold each other accountable, and if anybody on the team's down, everybody picks that person back up. They fight for each other every single night, and when I built this team, I knew majority of the players from coaching them in the past, but what they did this year, like, they just elevated their game to a whole different level. We might not have had the most skill in any of our series, but we had the fight and determination to grind out games and win those tight games. It was a full team effort from players to coaches to management, everything, to our executives. It was just a phenomenal season.
You talked about the tight games, then went on to Stainer. And after the first game where you guys had a lot of sick players and didn't do too well, after that, I was at a couple of the games, and I thought they were very tight checking games that you guys were in nearly every game. I had a discussion with a guy at work who lives in the Wingham area, let's just say that, who said, I've talked to some hockey guys, and he says Mitchell wasn't in any of the games. Stainer's too big and too skilled for these guys. I'm like, well, why don't you go to the game and look? Because I was there, and I thought you guys were in every game except that first one. Is there somewhere that you could pinpoint of where maybe you were lacking in that series against Stainer?
I think the biggest thing was Stainer has a lot of skill. They can move the puck well. They're fast. Every single player on the roster had an above average junior C hockey IQ. we had to fight very, very hard for every single scoring opportunity that we got. Mm-hmm. And we earned every single goal. We didn't score a whole lot of goals in the series, but every goal that we scored was due to very, very hard work. I think that was the biggest thing is they had a lot of skill, but the reason why we were in all of the games except for game one was the fact that our boys they never gave up. They always believed. They worked hard. They were blocking shots. They were clogging the front of the net. They were trying to make Parzy's job as easy as possible. And at the end of the day, we pounced on our opportunities, and that's how we were able to win games 2 and 3 and put some pressure on them in the series. Unfortunately, we lost 3 straight, really basically 1-goal games with the empty netters, right? So it was a good series. And the toughest part about it all is even though Stainer had a really good team, their weakest point was their goaltending, and that was the weakest goaltending that we seen all playoffs. And that just shows how good of a hockey team Stainer was. They're well coached, and we had to fight so hard for those opportunities, and we missed a lot of good opportunities, a few wide open nets. Like, this series could have changed on a dime, honestly. But at the end of the day, I'm extremely proud of every single individual on our team and how hard they fought. Obviously the sickness was one thing. It was non-COVID sickness, but it just kept going through the team and kept lingering, and guys were getting knocked down. One guy would come back, another guy would go down. And then we just had some key injuries too. And the fact that we pulled up affiliates for basically the first time. Lockhart played a few games with us this year, but we had affiliates playing with us full time during that series, and they stepped up huge. That just shows how good the Mitchell U18 program was. They helped out huge. So that would be the pinpoint. They had a very skillful team.
They did. I'll say this, like Stainer, all the credit to them. Their D-core could really skate. Yeah. Like they had guys back there that could really get on top of dump-ins and motor away and just fire a pass into the neutral zone. They were great that way. But I mean, sticking with your team, obviously, Steve Sabrin, myself, Scott Bridge, the CKNX junior hockey crew, you guys, we love covering the league and we love covering the Pollock division. And, I don't know. I've loved covering all the teams that have done well in the division in my time there. But I think just with COVID and losing that hockey coverage for 2 seasons, and then being able to go on this run with you guys and you guys being so open with us, bringing us along, letting us, be part of the journey. We all really appreciated that. And, when you spend that much time around a team as a broadcaster, you can't help but kind of get involved and root for guys. And, we had a lot of fun with you guys on the bus ride back from Hanover after the trophy win. That was an interesting bus ride, and the guys were great. And, they all came up, and we were really thrilled with all of the guys and their families, thanking us and everything. And even in Stainer, when the Game 6 loss happened, walking out of the building, Bridgie and myself, just all the guys, are crushed. Their season's over, and they all came up and shook our hands and said thanks. And you guys and the executives and Louis and the whole coaching staff, we really appreciated that. It was a really special group. And I went into the dressing room and talked to them after the loss, just said a quick little piece, and thanks for letting us be, so close to the journey. And I was just amazed at, obviously guys were just really down after losing a game like that, but I was just amazed at how close and supportive everybody was when I walked in there. Everybody just saying positive things and, reliving all the fun moments that they had. Like you said, just a really tight-knit group, and it really started with your leadership. And I don't know that I can say enough about all the guys that were hurt and got sick along the way, the battle level of this team. Malcolm McLeod, I mean, this kid, he had a bum shoulder pretty much the entire series. He had it going into Game 7 against Hanover. We didn't even think he was going to play. He scores a goal top shelf. He comes back in the Stainer series. The grind level on that kid is just incredible.
Yeah, he's first off, he's a phenomenal human being, and he just cares so much. And he knew the risks of what could happen if he played with this injury, and he's an adult, and he made the decision to play in Game 7. Obviously, he was very upset in Game 6 when his shoulder went out, but he battled through, and I think he was the reason why we won that Game 7, because when he stepped out on the ice, Hanover wasn't expecting him to play either. He steps out on the ice, Hanover sees him in warm-up firing pucks bar down, and it got in their heads right off the bat. And I think he was the key contributor to that win in Game 7. And you know what? We sat him for the first few games of Stainer series, and eventually he just had to come in. It was a good time for him to come in. We were tied 2-2. It was pivotal. He wasn't playing at 100%. He was still playing at 60%, but 60% of Malcolm McLeod is really, really good. So phenomenal human being, phenomenal leader. I'm very honored to be able to add him to our team and to get to know him as an individual. And I'm sure that our friendship will go long after this season. So.
Yeah, I would expect so. And just a great leadership group all together. And you had incredible OAs. And I mean, I wish we had time to talk about every single guy on the roster, because they're all such special kids and did a lot of special things this year. We got to talk, and Clarkie's a goalie guy, and he'll have some opinions on him as well. I mean, you talk about Stainer having a bit of a weakness in goal. You guys did not. No. You had a young man named Tyler Parr in net, the best goalie in the league by far. What an incredible kid. Just talk about what he brought to the table for you guys every single night, because pretty much every single minute he was in the crease for you, you just knew that a stop was coming.
Yeah, leading up to the Stainer series, if we scored more than 3 goals, we had a 99% chance of winning a hockey game. That's just how consistent he was game in and game out all year. And he let in 4 goals the first 2 games of the season. We lost 4-3, 4-3, and then went 20 games unbeaten in regulation. And it's just, the kid's just phenomenal. He's the biggest thing is his preparation before every single game. He's razor focused. He cares. He wanted to go out a winner in his final year of junior hockey. He loves junior hockey. And you know what? He brought it every single night. That game against that 8-0 game against Stainer, that, you know what? It is what it is. We didn't come together as a team. Parsi said himself, he's like, that's the first time all year that I was taking junior B caliber shots on net, and we were leaving them out to dry. So, you know what? Boys stepped up in front of them the rest of the way, and it is a whole team effort too, right? Like our defensive mindset as a whole all year, from our forwards, our defense, everything, made Parsi's job fairly easy. Now, he had to come up with some very big saves in every single game, but generally he was getting a lot of shots on net all year, but they're all from the outside, in non-dangerous scoring areas. And if you're shooting from a non-dangerous scoring area on Tyler Parr, you're not scoring. It's as simple as that. He's a phenomenal goalie. Again, phenomenal human being, and proud of him. Very proud of him.
Yeah, he looked really good there. Josh, what do you do for an encore now? It's a pretty good first full year there.
That's what actually my wife texted me when after Game 6 in Stainer. She texted me and said, you set the bar pretty high in your first year. And yeah, we set the bar really high as a group. And but we had this vision of building this local team. You bring in some top end talent and to kind of mold it together. But the biggest thing is you bring in phenomenal human beings that is going to keep the room in a good spot. And like, I've never been a part of a room like this ever. It was unbelievable. And so now I have the experience. I know what it takes to put together a winning team. And so I've already started planning. I started planning a month ago because the new season starts June 1st. So it's going to come up pretty quick. So we're already planning. We have a good foundation. We just got to start building around that foundation, and it's going to be a lot of hard work. Recruiting is never easy. But at the end of the day, winning a championship definitely will make it easier to recruit. So yeah, so we're definitely planning on doing a repeat. We're not a one and done franchise now. So yeah.
Will Louis be back?
As far as I know, we haven't had the sit down conversation yet, but you know what? Louis had a great year. He enjoyed the boys. I can't see him not being there. I know it was a lot of work. It's a little tough on him on the skates at practice and stuff like that. But you know what? I think if he could come back for one more year, that would be huge. And as far as I know, we'll have the coaching staff back for next year. So.
Yeah, well, and what a coaching staff it was. Of course, Holden Lansing, Ben Nelson, Kenny Jacklin, and of course, Louis Livingston that you bring up. And that'll be my final one for you, Josh. Just what was it like? I mean, you knew when you went out and you got Louis on board that you were getting a really quality coach, but what was it like to be able to bring a guy like that into the room, and how critical do you think it was in molding this group that already had plenty of talent? But how key was that in molding them into eventual Pollock Division champions? Because yeah, you said it, he enjoyed the boys. They really enjoyed him too. Like they really went through the wall for Louis. How big was that?
It was huge. And you know what, in order to run a successful program, you got to put the right people in place that are making the decisions. And I didn't know Louis that well prior to this, but with everybody, you do your research, and the amount of positive comments that were coming out of people's mouths about him were just insane. It was just, everything was positive. And obviously Lansing was coached by him too, and Wingham, and then you just look at the success that he's had at the junior C level. Like, he's got junior B experience, but he's won 3 Pollock Division championships prior to this one, right? So he has a lot of experience. And when I'm putting together this team, I want them to win at least at minimum a Pollock Division championship. So why not put a guy on the bench making the decisions that's won 3 of them prior to this one? So it was a very easy decision. I would never think twice about doing it again. The guy is just he's a gem. He's a great players coach, and he definitely led this team. Like he coached hard for the boys. The boys played hard for him, and I had no issues all day or all year. I let him do his thing. Never micromanaged. Never questioned any one of his decisions. I obviously made my opinions, but at the end of the day, respected what they decided, and that's what you got to do as a manager too with your coach. You got to let them go. So yeah, it was unbelievable. So.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable guy. We loved interacting with him throughout the year. He's definitely one of our favorites, and I'll definitely never forget him strapping the skates on and skating around with the Pollock Division trophy when you guys beat Hanover. Josh, congrats on a great year. Can't wait to see what you do for a sequel. It's going to be a lot of fun. Congrats to you, and if I haven't said it enough, pass it on to the guys. I mean, congrats to everybody. I mean, you guys had a heck of a season. You deserve to celebrate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. This is awesome. I appreciate CKNX obviously doing the games and stuff like that. It's great for the community. And you 2 guys or 3 guys are awesome to hang out with too. So next year when we're on the bus rides, you're more than welcome.
I can't wait.
Josh, before we go, Leafs Tampa, how do you see it?
It's a tough one. I really
not. Come on.
I actually want the series to go at least to game 6 because I'm down in Florida next week. So I want to guarantee a game 6 because I'm selfish that way. I might get the opportunity to go to a game, but
nice.
I think the Leafs are going to pull it off for sure. But I think it's gonna go 7 because Tampa's just got that experience, but they don't have the depth like they had the last few Stanley Cup runs. So on their 3rd and 4th lines, and the Leafs are a little deeper. So yeah.
I love how you said, I think the Leafs are going to win for sure. I think they're going to win for sure. I love that.
Yeah.
Good optimism. I think for sure.
But we need a game 6.
That's fine. I said Leafs in 5, but okay, fine. Fine.
Give Josh a game 6. He deserves it after a lot of hard work this year. He'd love to take a game in. All right, Keeler, we appreciate this, my friend. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, no problem, guys. Have a good night, eh?
All right, we're done this week on Instigating with Clarky and Drury. Thanks to Josh Kiel for joining us. Thanks to Aaron Korolnek from TSN 1050's First Up for joining us earlier in the show. You can watch the show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. Follow us on social media at Instigating Pod. For myself, I'm Drury. That's Clarky. We'll be back with more Instigating next week.